The legal march through the courts before the Brown decision, and then in the 15 years after Brown, was one that really had a lot of successes as legal matters. So that Brown really set the table for dismantling segregation throughout the society as a whole. Brown was really ostensibly only about school segregation. But Brown was also a political and psychological watershed, because it was the entire Supreme Court announcing to the country that segregation was fundamentally wrong, that it was un-American, and that it was illegal. And that was a huge turning point. Now, a lot of people say, well, the fact that schools were not integrated overnight means that Brown was a failure. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, they had to, after Brown, there was a house-to-house, state-by-state battle to implement it. But what it did was to give tremendous momentum throughout the whole legal system for desegregation of restaurants, public transportation, housing, and then ultimately the impetus that resulted in the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act of '65. Now, the Voting Rights Act, as a capstone of legal and legislative achievement, was a kind of announcement to people in the country, and a kind of call on the part of people like my mother that participation in politics was the next battlefront, that we had gone from sort of the streets and the sit-ins and the freedom rides to the courthouse, and now on to politics. And that's what changed the country, because we went from having virtually a handful, one or two or three black people in the Congress, and now we have a African American president.